was thinking it's a bit harder to do it in this generation because this generation has so many dopaminergic related things easily available compared to just few hundred years ago.
Okay, good observation, and what you say is true, but let me add a little bit more comprehensiveness to it, okay? Just a bit. Yes, it is more difficult. But imagine what it was like 100 years ago if you wanted to study with a Hindu master or with a master of Buddhism. You'd spend 2 years traveling to get there, and there was no printing press, and there were no translations. And books were so rare, they were priceless, right? So yes, you have the disadvantage of and I want to get to that, the neurobiology of that in just a moment. And if I don't, bring me back to it. But you have also all of the world's information, all of the world's art, all of the world's poetry, all of the world's, it's a click away. You could take a course at MIT sitting in Nigeria and not even leave your living room, right? In between video games, you can take a course at the best universities on the planet, and they give this away, as they should. But so in that way, it's much easier. And also this work of the comparative, mysticism. We couldn't do that before. We didn't have books like that were that available, and everybody spoke different languages. Tower of Babel and all that other stuff. So, but now let's get to the neurobiology. This is what it comes down to. Our brains are become used to stimulation level, the way our bodies get used to certain foods, or our bodies get used to certain temperatures. And if you've lived in a temperature where it's 95 degrees all the time, and then it cools off at 3 degrees at night, your body adjusts to that. And if you go into an air-conditioned room, it's too cold, right? So it's analogous to that, except now we're talking about stimulation of the brain, the amount of information and the kind of information that's being pumped into the organ, okay? Now your generation and the generation before that, to some extent, our brains have become habituated to, accustomed to a certain level of stimulation. And if it drops below that, we get bored, and it's uncomfortable for us because we want it to be like the brain wants it. The brain likes what it knows. And what if it knows is constant stimulation, video games or TV or YouTubes or anything with a high stimulation level, it becomes addicted to it. Not addicted, but habituated to it, all right? Now, so to reset that takes some time, but you have to lower the stimulation level. And that's the other purpose of meditation. Actually, that's the main purpose of meditation, is to get your brain accustomed to being quiet. And so when people go on retreats, which I need to do, just withdraw from the world for a while, then things get much more quiet, much more simple, much more peaceful. There's no conflict. You're not connected to the insanity and self-destructiveness of the world, for example, and things calm down. And then your brain gets used to that, and then on the other side, right, you become very, very sensitive. So I used to meditate in a Macy's, the Macy's department store, a very, very crowded one in Northern California. Very, very noisy and very, very terrible and this and that. So the ability to quiet your mind during all that stuff is also necessary in the modern world. And you'll find that you'll be able to do it. And I recommend that. So you've meditated in graveyards or contemplated death. Okay, now meditate while doing something else. Sitting in a crowded shopping center. And just look how powerful your mind is. So part of this is you have to believe that your mind is as powerful as it is, because otherwise you'll just think that it's a frightened little creature. But it's not. All right? We were given these minds by God so we could learn what it is to be away from home for a while, maybe so we'd appreciate coming home, right? And so